Astrology isn't just about signs and symbols. It's a tool for navigating real life. Hello, and welcome to Astrology with Elisa. I'm your host, Elisa Dixon, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. I had a really great listener question come in, and I love it when you guys reach out. So please keep the questions coming. This one has a few layers, which makes it even more fun. The question was, what does it mean to be born under a retrograde? And specifically, they mentioned Mercury. They also asked about what it means when your Mercury is at 0 degrees, because both their mom and their daughter have that placement, which is such an interesting layer. So let's break this down. We'll start with Mercury, since that's what sparked the question. When planets go retrograde in real time, we tend to turn inward. We reflect more. We revisit things. We look at something again from a different angle. And Mercury specifically, that's our thoughts, our communication, our processing. So during a Mercury retrograde, we're naturally pulled inward mentally. Now, in a natal chart, same idea. But instead of it being temporary, it becomes part of your default setting. Because when we take our first breath, whatever energy is present in the sky imprints into our chart, into our soul. So if Mercury is retrograde when you're born, that inward, reflective, reprocessing energy is something you carry throughout your life. These are often people who think deeply, who process internally first, who may not always speak their thoughts right away. They're turning things over on the inside before expressing them on the outside. And where this gets really interesting is with progressions. Because when we progress a chart, we move it forward one day for every year of life. So if Mercury is retrograde for about 3 weeks, roughly 21 days, that translates to about 21 years in a progressed chart. So let's say you were born on day 1 of a Mercury retrograde. That means 21 days later, Mercury stations direct. In a progression, that becomes around age 21. And that year is a big year because anytime a progressed planet changes direction from retrograde to direct or direct to retrograde, it marks a turning point and it shows up in the themes of that planet. So for Mercury, that could be a shift in thinking, communication, expression, maybe finding your voice, maybe breaking a pattern of self-doubt, or starting to share what's been kept internal for years. And this is similar to something I talked about a few months back when I did an episode on planets out of bounds. Because even if you don't have a certain energy natally, it can activate later through progression. For example, I don't have any planets out of bounds in my natal chart, but my progressed Mercury went out of bounds last year, right around the time I launched this podcast. And it will stay there for several years. So these timing techniques, they really matter. They show you when certain energies come online in a bigger way. I've seen this play out in really powerful ways. I worked with someone recently who was born with Mars retrograde. Mars is the planet of action, how you assert yourself, what you go after, and how you move through conflict. And in her case, Mars stationed direct by progression around age 30. And that year was very Mars. She had major forward movement with her career, but also a lot of friction, tension, frustration, things to move through, Mars themes. So when a planet changes direction in your progressed chart, it's not subtle. You feel it. It marks a shift in how that energy moves through your life. And I've got one of these coming up too. My natal Jupiter is retrograde, but by progression, it will station direct in about 15 years. And I'm already looking forward to that because Jupiter is expansion, opportunity, growth, abundance. So I don't know exactly what it will bring, but I do know it will expand something. Now, zooming out, this applies to all the planets. Mercury, around thinking and communication. Venus, themes of love, relationships, money, joy. Mars, it's action, drive, conflict. The outer planets too, though they may feel less personal, you'll still notice when they shift. And just to note, the sun and the moon never go retrograde. They always move forward. Now, in general, it's actually very common to have retrograde planets in your chart, especially the outer planets. Saturn through Pluto are retrograde almost half the time. Jupiter too, actually. And in my chart, all 5 of those are retrograde. What's more uncommon is having everything direct. That's like full steam ahead energy. No internal pause, no built-in reflection. But generally, retrograde energy leans inward. It's more reflective, more internal processing. And how that shows up will always depend on the sign, the house, and the rest of the chart. Now let's talk about the second part of this question, Mercury at 0 degrees. 0 degrees is what we call a critical degree. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as anaretic, but really it's the very beginning of a sign. Pure energy, no history yet. It's like a clean slate, a blank canvas. You get to define how that energy expresses. And it's interesting because both 0 and 29 degrees are considered critical points in a sign, just at opposite ends of the spectrum. 29 degrees, that's the classic anaretic degree, the very end of a sign. That's experience, familiarity, energy you've already lived with. It can feel instinctive, like something you just know. And the opportunity there is to trust it and work with it consciously. Now, what I really love about this question is the generational piece. Seeing a pattern like this show up across generations, especially when it skips one, that's not random. It usually means there's something being worked through, learned, refined over time. For example, here's a pattern like that in my own life. I'm an Aries sun. My dad is a Taurus sun. Very different energies. Aries is fast, impulsive, ready to go. Taurus is slower, steady, grounded. And growing up, I didn't always understand him. There was friction. But now I have a Taurus daughter. Her birthday is within a week of my dad's. She's about to turn 10 in a few weeks. And honestly, it's taken me almost that entire decade to really understand it. Which feels very Taurus. Slow, steady, something that builds over time. But now I really do see it differently. I understand that Taurus energy in a way I didn't before. She's teaching me what I didn't fully learn the first time, growing up in the same household as my dad. And now through her, I can appreciate my dad in a new way. And I think that's part of how these patterns work. They come back around until we see them clearly, until we integrate them. So when I hear that someone has a mom and a daughter, both with Mercury at 0 degrees, that feels like a shared thread, a shared invitation to define how that Mercury energy will be expressed, and maybe even to help each other to find that voice. But back to retrogrades, because there's one more piece that's really important. If you were born with a personal planet retrograde, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, there's a good chance that planet will change direction by progression during your lifetime. Because personal planets don't stay retrograde very long. Venus, for example, is retrograde for about 40 days. And in progressions, that's about 40 years. So at some point, that energy can flip. It can move forward. And when it does, people feel it. Now compare that to the outer planets. They stay retrograde for months at a time. So yes, they can change direction by progression, but it's much less common. So if you do have Mercury, Venus, or Mars retrograde in your natal chart, it's really worth knowing when that shift might happen, because it can help you understand a chapter you've already lived or give you awareness around what's ahead. And honestly, that's something I love looking at in readings, because timing like that can be incredibly validating. So to this listener, thank you so much for this question. I hope this helped. I love when you guys reach out. It really helps shape what we talk about here every week. And I'm actually really excited. My podcast platform just added something new. So now when you click that link in the show notes, you can send me a message or even leave a voicemail, which is so fun because I love hearing your voices too. So if you're up for it, send me a voice note this week. I would really love it. And actually, this all ties together with what we were talking about last week with solar returns, because all of this, progressions, timing, how your energy evolves over time, your solar return chart is another way of looking at that. It's the energy of your year, where you are now, and what you're stepping into next. And I actually launched something new last week around this, my solar return cards. They are so much fun to create. I've already had several orders come through since last week, which has been really exciting. Most of them have been people ordering for themselves, which I kind of love, because your solar return chart is another timing technique. It's your birthday chart, a snapshot of the sky at the exact moment the sun returns to where it was when you were born. And it gives you insight into the themes, the energy, and what's unfolding in your year ahead. So if your birthday is coming up, or even if it just passed, it's such a cool way to understand what you're stepping into next. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. You can get one printed or digital only on my website or on my Etsy store. And I'll also leave the link to that episode I mentioned about out of bounds planets. That was a really popular episode. All right, you guys, I'll be back again with you next week. And if you'd like to hear more from me in the meantime, check out my Sunday series on the Fun Astrology podcast. I always have new episodes here every Wednesday and over there every Sunday. As always, I love and appreciate you all. Thanks again for listening. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Hey, Astro friends, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, follow the show, or leave a review. Let's keep growing this beautiful little community together.